Adolescence is well known to be a time, the most prominent time for the initiation of substance abuse. College students are known to be novelty seekers and risk takers. They take risks without thinking about adverse consequences. There's lots of social pressure in college, and as well as lack of parental influence. So it's a big time in life to experiment with drugs. Drug can be, any chemical with a biological target. In that respect, aspirin is a drug. I assume that you are talking about drugs of abuse, in which case it gets a little more complicated. So a drug that has abuse liability would be something that is readily self-administered or taken voluntarily. When I talk about reinforcement, I mean that taking the drug increases the behavior that is done to obtain the drug. In simpler terms, if a drug is liked and it is readily taken, we could probably say that drug has an abuse liability. So that includes legal substances such as alcohol, also nicotine, caffeine. That also includes illicit drugs such as marijuana and heroin. And one of the rapidly growing categories of drug abuse is psychotherapeutics, like opioid painkillers and drugs that are medicines for many people but also have abuse potential.
Monitoring the Future is a study entirely focused on studying the behaviors of students in secondary schools as well as colleges. The following annual prevalence rates are taken from a survey conducted in 2012 among college students nationwide.
Raised in high schools where alcohol and substance is pulled into the high school environment, and that just transfers to the college environment. You see that in dropout rates in college, you see that in dropout rates in high school, and a lot of that is a direct result of drugs being used in those situations.
Standpoint on, do you think all drugs are bad, or do you think there's some are worse than others?
I think most drugs that are legal are bad. Marijuana is the iffy statement. Alcohol is also illegal, and it can also be very bad for you or for anyone.
So which one do you think is the worst for the student body, like affecting education and motivation and other factors like that?
I would say on a college campus, alcohol is.
Okay. And then, have more drugs been offered to you in college than in any other time period in your life?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing what some of those substances are?
Yeah, sure. I've been offered, of course, alcohol, marijuana. I've been offered acid before and mushrooms, and I think that's the extent of illicit
So
drugs.
I'm here with a fellow student at UK. Do you yourself do drugs at all?
Yes.
Any preferences, any favorites?
I like weed. That's about
Okay.
it. That's all.
Have any other drugs been offered to you, or have you done any other drugs besides marijuana?
They've been offered. I have never done them.
Could you name some of the drugs that have been offered?
LSD, painkillers, ADHD medicine.
What are the most common drugs and how harmful do you think they are?
In college students, so college students are widely known to use alcohol at really high rates. It is readily identified as one of the most harmful substances there is. Marijuana is also very widely used, and the opioid drugs and psychotherapeutics, also stimulants such as Adderall or Ritalin, are gaining widespread use on college campuses.
The use of marijuana, alcohol, and other illicit drugs has multiple negative effects on students' academic performances. From continual absences to poor grades, using these illicit drugs can cause damaging academic problems that are hard to recover from. Drug use can also cause mental and cognitive impairment that make it difficult for students to succeed in school.
Do you think marijuana is worse than alcohol?
No.
Not at all?
I think alcohol is more
Worse
dangerous.
campuses for this, or?
For drug use,
Yes. Substance abuse.
I'd say it's pretty even with colleges in the South area,
Okay.
but across all colleges, alcohol is an issue everywhere.
And you think that's the biggest issue here?
I think so.
Okay.
Because that causes like you to not pay attention in class. Like it's not necessarily negative to do it sometimes, but it's the most ongoing drug use in the college. So it causes people to lose their nights on the weekends, maybe lose nights on weekdays, which takes away from study time.
Have you yourself ever encountered that?
As an issue for myself, no, I've normally been able to handle my school experience with any
Okay.
sort of other.
What would you say is the most destructive drug for young adults?
Actually, lots of studies have been done on relative harms between drugs, and most physicians and public health officials and scientists would agree that alcohol is among the most destructive drugs, if not the most destructive drug, followed closely by opioids such as heroin. And then on the other end of the spectrum, people, including drug users themselves, would think that marijuana and some of the hallucinogens really have the least harmful effects and maybe even beneficial.
Nearly half of America's 5.4 million full-time college students abuse drugs or drink on binges at least once a month. Alcohol remains the favorite substance of abuse here at the University of Kentucky as well as other institutions nationwide. The abuse of prescription drugs and marijuana, although readily available to students here at UK, is minuscule in comparison to other institutions nationwide.